The wind carried ash like drifting snow, turning the broken interstate into a gray river that stretched beyond sight. Noah Arden walked carefully along the cracked pavement, every step echoing softly in the hollow world that remained. The air tasted of minerals and memory. In the distance, the jagged silhouette of ruined Denver rose like a charred skeleton against the pale sky, its once great towers half melted, half crumbled. Noah wasn't supposed to be here. The Western Defense Coalition had declared the region unstable. Too many sinkholes, too much rogue radiation, too many roaming scavenger bands. But he had followed a rumor, a faint transmission heard by traders crossing the Rockies. A woman's voice, soft and haunting, singing a melody no one had heard since the first days after the bombs. A melody that could only belong to Lyra Vale. Before the war, she had been the nation's brightest voice, a singer whose songs soothed the country during its darkest political days. But it was her final broadcast, the night the eastern seaboard went dark, that carved her into legend. Her voice had trembled, not with fear, but with raw, aching sorrow. "Don't answer destruction with destruction," she had said, "or there will be no dawn left for us." Hours later, news spread that her studio had been vaporized. Yet the traders insisted. The signal was real. Noah tightened the straps of his pack. His boots crunched on debris. He scanned the ruins. Silence answered. Then, a shout. 3 figures emerged from behind the remains of an overturned bus. Scavengers. Their makeshift armor rattled as they rushed him. Noah raised his hands, but they didn't care about surrender. They needed supplies, not explanations. The first one lunged. Noah ducked behind a burnt-out sedan. A rusted pipe swung past his head and sparked against metal. He stumbled backward, his breath sharp and heavy. The second scavenger circled with a jagged blade. "Easy," Noah tried, but his voice cracked. A shot tore through the air. The scavengers froze, then bolted. Noah turned toward the source and saw a figure crouched atop a fallen traffic sign. A young woman in a patched survival coat, her rifle still smoking. She slid down the metal pole with practiced ease. "You're lucky they scare easily," she said without ceremony. "Most out here don't." "Thanks," Noah breathed. "Who are you?" She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she scanned the horizon, making sure the scavengers weren't regrouping. Only when she was satisfied did she lower her weapon. "Name's Mara," she said. "Echo Lake Patrol. What are you doing this close to the crater zones?" Noah hesitated. Echo Lake, one of the few stable settlement cities west of the mountains. Rumors said its council kept a tight leash on information. "I'm a researcher," he said finally. "I'm looking for a signal." Mara's eyes narrowed. "A signal? Out here?" Noah reached into his coat and pulled out a battered handheld recorder. He pressed play. Static sputtered for a moment. Then a faint, trembling voice emerged. Soft, melodic, impossibly familiar. Even through distortion, the tone carried warmth like a heartbeat in winter. Mara stiffened. "That's Lyra Vale," Noah whispered. The wind fell still as if the world itself paused to listen. "No," Mara said firmly, stepping back. "That's impossible. She died in the first wave. Everyone knows that." "So did the traders who heard this," Noah replied. "But here we are." She studied him for a long moment, then motioned toward the distant mountains. "If that recording is real, there's only one place it could have come from," she murmured. "And it's not marked on any coalition map." "Where?" Mara's voice dropped to a whisper. "Echo Lake's understage. The old amphitheater tunnels." Noah's pulse quickened. Echo Lake was days away on foot, and heavily guarded. But if someone had revived Lyra's voice, or if she somehow survived. Mara slung her rifle across her back. "I can take you as far as the outskirts, but once we get close, you'll have to decide who to trust. Echo Lake's not just a city, it's a crossroads." She looked at him gravely. "People talk about peace there, but others talk about ending the war for good." Noah frowned. "The war is over." Mara shook her head. "Not for Commander Shaw, Not for the coalition. They're preparing something. Something big. And if someone's reviving Lyra Vale's voice, she inhaled sharply. It means someone's trying to stop them. A rumble rolled across the plains. Distant engines. Coalition drones. Mara grabbed Noah's arm. Move! Now! As they ran toward the mountains, Noah couldn't shake the feeling that the world, quiet as it was, had just awakened, and that the voice he was chasing might be the last hope left to stop humanity from finishing what the bombs had started. The path to Echo Lake wound through the shattered remains of former suburbs, where houses stood like half-forgotten ghosts. Cars lay overturned in driveways, swallowed by weeds that pushed through cracked asphalt. The silence was thick, broken only by the occasional creak of buckling beams or the distant buzz of coalition drones sweeping the skies. Mara kept a brisk pace, weaving through debris with the instinct of someone who had traveled this terrain hundreds of times. Noah followed, occasionally glancing at the recorder tucked safely in his pack. Even now, even after everything he'd seen on this journey, he still couldn't fully accept what he'd heard. Lyra Vale's voice, alive, trembling, unmistakable. If the signal came from Echo Lake, Noah said as they approached the foothills, why hasn't the coalition traced it? They monitor every frequency. They tried, Mara replied, hopping over a fallen power line. But Echo Lake is different. We rebuilt our comms from pre-war analog tech. Tubes, coils, rewired copper. Nothing is digital. Nothing is clean. It's a mess of echoes and reflections down in the understage. A perfect place to hide a ghost broadcast. A ghost. The word unsettled him in a way he couldn't articulate. As they climbed toward the mountain pass, the terrain shifted from gray ruin to living forest. Pines pushed through the snow-flecked ground. Birds flickered between branches, fragile fragments of a world that seemed lost, yet somehow persisted. You seem surprised, Mara said with a faint smile. I didn't think anything this green was left. Most people don't. But Echo Lake's altitude sheltered it from the worst of the fallout. The winds did the rest. Her expression dimmed. Not that everything is peaceful. Our council is split. Shaw's pressure is growing every year. The name again. Commander Huxley Shaw. Noah had reported on him before the bombs. A decorated officer, known for his hard stance on national defense. After the war, he had become the de facto head of the Western Defense Coalition. What does Shaw want with Echo Lake? Noah asked. Mara slowed her pace, as if weighing whether to reveal more. Information. There's something in the understage, an old storage facility no one talks about. Shaw thinks we're hiding something there. She paused. Maybe we are. Noah felt a prickle of unease. And you think Lyra Vale is connected to that? I don't think anything, Mara replied. But my unit intercepted fragments of that same signal weeks ago. We weren't supposed to investigate. Orders came from higher up to ignore it. Her jaw tightened. That's why I took leave. Why I'm out here. Noah nodded slowly. Secrets piled atop secrets. Echo Lake was no ordinary settlement. It was a place that held old truths close and dangerous truths even closer. By late afternoon, the mountains parted, revealing Echo Lake for the first time. The city sat cradled in a natural basin, built around a vast amphitheater carved into the rock decades before the war. Homes and towers rose in terraced layers along the mountainside, built from reinforced stone, solar glass, and scavenged metal. Wind turbines carved gentle circles in the sky. At the very center lay the old amphitheater, a dark crescent descending into the earth. Even from this distance, Noah felt its weight. That's the understage? He asked. Above it, Mara corrected. The understage is beneath that. Old tunnels, storage units, performance halls. Most were sealed after the war. Some say they're unsafe. She glanced at him. Others say they're unsafe for political reasons. 2 guards waited at the stone archway, marking the city entrance. Their uniforms were patched but clean, a blend of civilian fabric and military gear. Mara raised her hand in greeting. Patrol returning, she called out. One of the guards stepped forward, eyeing Noah. Who's this? A researcher, Mara said. He's here to investigate the signal interference we've been tracking. The guard frowned. We're supposed to report any outsiders to the council immediately. We will, Mara replied evenly, after I escort him to intake. The guard hesitated, but eventually waved them through. Inside, Echo Lake buzzed with quiet life. Traders bartering vegetables for tools, children laughing in narrow corridors between stone homes, the distant hum of water turbines. It felt like a world trying desperately to rebuild itself, clinging to a vision of civilization older than the war. But beneath the surface, Noah sensed tension. Curious eyes followed him. Conversations softened when he passed. They know something's happening, Noah murmured. They feel it, Mara corrected. Shaw's emissaries arrived 2 days ago. They're meeting with the council tonight. To discuss what? To give Echo Lake an ultimatum. She swallowed. Cooperate, or be occupied. The words sent a chill down his spine. Shaw was tightening his grip on the West. The last pieces of the old America were falling under military command. Mara led him through winding paths toward a cluster of stone buildings. Wait here, she said, slipping inside the intake office. But Noah's eyes were drawn to the amphitheater below, the place the traders had whispered about. He could almost hear the faint tremble of Lyra's voice drifting from its depths. As he stared, a shadow detached from the amphitheater's entrance and approached, moving with purpose. A tall man in a coalition officer's coat. Commander Huxley Shaw himself. Noah's breath froze. Shaw looked unchanged, stern eyes, silver at his temples, a presence both magnetic and cold. His gaze locked onto Noah with startling precision, as if he had been waiting for him. Noah Arden, Shaw called across the stone path. I wondered when you'd arrive. Noah's pulse hammered. How do you know who I am? Shaw approached slowly, hands behind his back. We monitor all unusual movement near the crater zones. Your presence there raised questions. Noah forced a steady expression. I'm following a lead. Yes, Shaw said softly. A voice. The world seemed to narrow. Tell me, Mr. Arden. Did you find her? Before Noah could reply, Mara burst from the intake building. Commander, she said stiffly, Noah is under Echo Lake's jurisdiction now. Shaw gave her a thin, unreadable smile. Of course. For now. He stepped back, his gaze never leaving Noah. But understand this, Shaw added quietly. Whatever you think you've found, whatever you believe that voice means, the world cannot survive another mistake. Echo Lake's secrets will either save us or destroy us. He turned and walked away toward the council chambers. Mara grabbed Noah's arm. We need to talk, not here. As she pulled him into the narrow alleys, Noah realized he was standing at the edge of something far larger than he'd imagined, and that every person in Echo Lake, from Mara to Shaw, believed they knew the fate of the world. But only one voice could reveal the truth. Lyra Vale. Night fell quickly over Echo Lake. The wind carried the scent of pine and old stone, but beneath it lingered something heavier. Tension, fear, anticipation. Torchlight flickered along the amphitheater steps as council members gathered inside for their closed-door meeting with Commander Shaw. From afar, the scene looked almost ceremonial, like a ritual carved from the ashes of the old world. Mara didn't lead Noah toward the council chambers. Instead, she pulled him through a maze of narrow corridors carved into the mountainside, passing through dimly lit maintenance tunnels, storage rooms, and old stairwells that spiraled downward. Where are we going? Noah whispered. To someone who can answer your questions, Mara replied, and someone who wants to speak with you. The deeper they moved, the older the tunnels became. Stone gave way to concrete, then rusted steel. Pipes lined the ceiling in tangled webs. Faint tremors vibrated through the walls. Water pumps, generators, distant activity from the amphitheater above. Finally, Mara stopped at a heavy blast door. Faded letters spelled, Understage. Authorized personnel only. She produced a ring of keys, selecting one with a blue marking. The lock groaned. The door opened with a long, hollow creak. Inside, darkness breathed. The air was cooler, emptied of any scent except dust and age. Their footsteps echoed sharply as they walked down a wide staircase into a cavernous hall supported by thick steel beams. Old equipment lay abandoned. Soundboards, lighting rigs, crates of cables. Decades ago, this had been the heart of Echo Lake's cultural life. Now, it was a world forgotten. Mara lit a lantern and motioned for Noah to stay close. Most people think the understage is sealed for safety. But that's just the official story. What's the real one? There are things down here the council doesn't want Shaw to find, and people they don't want him speaking to. They reached a narrow hallway branching off the main chamber. A faint glow flickered at the end. Candlelight. When Mara extinguished her lantern, Noah felt the hairs on his arms rise. Then he heard it, the soft tremble of a voice, singing. Noah's heart clenched. The melody wasn't clear, but the tone, the softness, the ache. It was her. Lyra Vale. Mara stepped back, letting Noah take the lead. He approached the source of the light. The hallway widened into a smaller room filled with candles arranged in circles on the floor. Old posters of the amphitheater were pinned to the walls. Performers long gone, faces preserved in yellowed ink. At the center of the room sat a woman on a low stool, her head bowed as she adjusted a small analog transmitter built from scavenged parts. Her hair, long, silvered, tangled, cascaded around her shoulders. A blanket wrapped around her thin frame. Lyra, Mara said gently. The woman lifted her head. Noah's breath caught. Her face was older, marked by years of hardship, but her eyes held the same warmth he remembered from before the war, the same quiet strength that had carried millions through the early days of the bombing. You brought him, she said softly, her voice hoarse but unmistakable. Mara nodded. He heard your transmission. Lyra's gaze settled on Noah. I knew someone would come, she murmured. Someone who remembered. Noah stepped forward, feeling as though he was moving through a dream. You're alive. After all this time. How? Luck, Lyra said. And the amphitheater's lower levels. The first blast missed us by miles, but the shockwave collapsed the entrances. I was trapped down here for weeks before Echo Lake's survivors dug me out. A faint smile. It seems the world wanted me quiet for a while. Noah couldn't help but smile back, but the weight of the situation quickly returned. Your broadcast? Why now? Lyra stood slowly, her joints stiff. Because Shaw is close to finding the vault. Mara flinched. You're sure? Lyra nodded. The scouts I've spoken with say Shaw's officers have been sweeping the old government tunnels under Nevada. They know something is hidden there, and they're searching for the last piece that will confirm it. The last piece? Noah asked. Lyra pointed to her transmitter. A set of analog coordinates encrypted within my pre-war vocal recordings. It was a safety protocol set up by the Arts and Media Division, not that the public ever knew. Performers with large audiences were sometimes used to distribute secure information in plain sight. She gave a bitter laugh. A song can hide anything if you know where to listen. Noah frowned, trying to process it. So, the vault? The thing Shaw wants? It's something buried in the desert? Something terrible, Lyra whispered. An arsenal built in secret during the escalation. A cache of long-range nuclear weapons. Untouched, undetonated, fully operational. Noah felt the floor tilt. That can't be true. All silos were destroyed. Not all, Lyra said. These weapons were part of a classified contingency plan. If Shaw gets to them, he'll have the power to end what's left of the world. He believes retaliation is justice. That final destruction will restore honor. Mara's voice was tight. We need to warn the council. The council won't act, Lyra said. They're divided. Some fear Shaw. Others believe he may be right. Noah swallowed hard. So, what do you need from me? Lyra approached him, her eyes luminous in the candlelight. Your voice still carries weight. People listened to you before the war. They trusted your reports. If you speak with me, if you help me broadcast the truth, we can reach every settlement west of the Rockies. She placed a weak hand on his arm. We can stop Shaw before he finds the vault. Noah hesitated, overwhelmed. But If Shaw knows I'm here. He already does, Lyra said. He's been waiting for you. He believes you'll lead him to me, that you'll confirm the last coordinates. A chill crawled down Noah's spine. He thinks I'll help him? Yes, Lyra replied softly, because once, long ago, you believed in him. Noah froze. He had reported on Shaw before the war, praised his discipline, his clarity, his warnings about national vulnerability. Had those words helped elevate Shaw into power? Lyra stepped closer. You can correct that mistake now. Before Noah could answer, a distant rumble echoed through the understage. Heavy boots, metallic clanks, the unmistakable rhythm of a military unit entering the tunnels. Mara swore under her breath. They're early. Shaw's men. The lights flickered. Lyra's eyes hardened. Noah, she whispered. Whatever happens next, do not let Shaw reach me. Not alive. The blast door above trembled as someone forced it open. Noah turned toward the sound, heart pounding. The world was about to collide in the darkness. The blast door above thundered open, the metal groaning in protest before slamming against the wall. Heavy boots stomped down the staircase, each echo growing sharper, nearer, more disciplined than any scavenger could manage. Coalition soldiers, Shaw's elite. Mara grabbed Noah's sleeve and pulled him back behind a rusted lighting rig. Lyra extinguished several candles with a rapid sweep of her blanket, plunging the chamber into deeper shadow. Noah's pulse hammered as he pressed himself against the cold steel casing. The tremors of approaching soldiers vibrated through the floor. Search every corridor, barked a voice above. The commander wants them alive. A chill crawled through Noah. Them. Shaw wasn't only hunting Lyra. He was hunting him. Mara leaned toward Noah, her whisper barely audible over the hum of old machinery. They came faster than expected. They must have traced your recorder. Noah cursed under his breath. I thought it was analog. It is, Lyra said softly. But Shaw's people have hybrid scanners. Nothing is invisible to him anymore. Two beams of flashlight cut through the large hall. Dust glimmered in their paths, like falling snow. More boots thundered down the stairwell. The soldiers fanned out with mechanical precision. We need to move, Mara whispered. Now. She guided Noah and Lyra through a narrow maintenance door at the back of the room. The hinges screeched softly, loud enough that Noah's breath stalled, but the soldiers' footsteps drowned the sound for now. Inside was a cramped service tunnel lined with old wiring and broken conduit. The air smelled of rust and stale water. Mara sealed the door behind them. There's another exit deeper down, she muttered. The council sealed it years ago, but I know where it is. Noah steadied Lyra as they hurried through the darkness. Despite her weak frame, she moved with surprising resolve. They'll search every chamber, Noah said. Yes, Lyra replied, but they don't know this tunnel exists. It wasn't on any official map. Her voice tightened. I know because I slept down here the first weeks after the bombings. Noah felt his chest tighten, not with fear, but with the crushing reminder of how she had survived, hidden beneath a world collapsing above her. They continued deeper until the tunnel opened into another wide room, an old broadcasting bay, long abandoned. Dusty microphones hung from collapsed ceiling rigs, and a cracked glass booth overlooked the space like a forgotten ghost. Noah paused. This is where you broadcast from, isn't it? Before the collapse? Lyra nodded faintly. The night everything went dark? Yes. For a moment, Noah imagined the room alive with technicians, equipment humming, her voice echoing through the world, a calm beacon in chaos. A distant metallic clang snapped him back. They're in the main hall, Mara whispered. We don't have much time. She crossed the bay and pushed aside a stack of toppled equipment. Behind it was a small steel hatch with a cranked locking wheel. This leads to a vertical shaft, she said. From there, an emergency exit to the old reservoir tunnels. She began turning the wheel. It screeched loudly, too loudly. Flashlight beams swept into the broadcasting bay. Over here, a soldier shouted. Noah spun. Shadows flickered across the walls as 3 coalition soldiers charged into the room, rifles raised. Hands where we can see them, one barked. Mara abandoned the wheel and sprinted toward a concrete pillar. firing a makeshift flare gun. The brilliant flash exploded midair, filling the room with blinding white light. The soldiers staggered back, shielding their eyes. "Move!" Mara shouted. Noah grabbed Lyra and raced to the hatch as Mara covered them with another flare shot. The wheel finished turning and the hatch fell open. "Go!" Mara ordered. Noah lowered Lyra into the shaft first, then followed, gripping the metal rungs. The shaft was tight, the walls cold and damp. Above them, flashlights pierced the flare smoke. "There! They're in the shaft!" Bullets clanged against the hatch frame, sending sparks into the darkness. Lyra climbed surprisingly fast, driven by something deeper than fear. Noah felt Mara descend after them, her boots scraping against the metal rungs. "Hurry!" she urged. "They're securing the hatch." They reached the bottom after a 60-foot descent. A narrow stone corridor stretched ahead, lit only by faint reflections of their lantern's dying glow. Mara landed beside them and immediately pulled Noah and Lyra forward. "We have one chance," she said breathlessly. "The reservoir tunnels aren't mapped. If we reach the filtration chamber, we can double back to a hidden exit outside the city." "And Shaw?" Noah asked. Mara's eyes were dark. "If Shaw's here personally, then Echo Lake's neutrality is already over." As they hurried through the winding tunnels, the roar of water grew louder. Pipes ran along the walls, vibrating with the force of mountain runoff still feeding Echo Lake's systems. The sound nearly drowned Noah's thoughts, until Lyra slowed suddenly. She leaned against the wall, breath trembling. "Are you okay?" he asked. "I'm fine," she murmured. "Just memories." Noah gave her a moment. Mara scanned the darkness anxiously. Then Lyra placed a hand over Noah's. "There's something you need to know," she whispered. "You think Shaw wants the vault only to strike back? But it's worse." Noah frowned. "How?" Lyra swallowed hard. "Shaw doesn't just want to end what's left of the world. He wants to remake it. Under one rule, his rule. He believes a final demonstration will force all surviving settlements to surrender." Mara's face paled. "He wouldn't—" "He would," Lyra said. "He's convinced himself it's mercy." Before Noah could reply, a distant blast echoed through the tunnels, followed by the sound of metal scraping violently. "They breached the shaft," Mara whispered. "We have to move. Now." They pressed deeper until the corridor opened into a vast filtration chamber. Water cascaded down rusted metal plates, pooling into basins that reflected shimmering light onto the ceiling. The air was thick with moisture and the rumble of churning pumps. "This way," Mara shouted over the noise, pointing to a narrow platform leading to another tunnel. But as they stepped forward, a voice echoed from the shadows. "Going somewhere." Noah froze. Commander Shaw stepped from behind a towering filtration unit, flanked by 2 soldiers. His coat was damp, his boots muddy, but his expression was as composed as ever. Cold, resolute. "You've caused quite the disruption," Shaw said calmly. His gaze drifted to Lyra. "And you? I should have known the world wouldn't be rid of you so easily." Lyra stepped forward, her voice steady. "Huxley, please, don't do this." Shaw's eyes hardened. "I offered the world discipline," he said. "I warned them. And instead they drowned themselves in indecision and weakness. The bombs were only the beginning." Noah felt sick. "You want to finish it?" "No," Shaw replied. "I want to rebuild. And to do that, we must ensure no one questions authority ever again." His soldiers raised their rifles. Mara reached for her sidearm. "Don't," Shaw warned. "I need you alive, all of you." "Why?" Noah demanded. "Because," Shaw said, "the coordinates to the vault are encoded across Lyra Vale's final song, and the missing cipher is your voice print." He smiled faintly. "A perfect lock. One built on trust." Noah's stomach dropped. Shaw extended a hand. "Come with me, Noah. You can restore order. You can help rebuild the world the right way." The room seemed to hold its breath. Lyra's eyes pleaded silently. Mara's hand hovered near her holster. Shaw waited, confident. Noah looked at him, a man he once admired, and saw not strength but the shadow of the world that had burned. He drew a sharp breath, and made his choice. The sky stayed bruised for 3 days after the storm. The clouds hung low and heavy, like they were listening. Franklin and Tara traveled west with their small group. 5 survivors who'd chosen to trust the 2 strangers who spoke of a choir that could stop a war. Trust came easier in the ruins, hope much less so. On the morning of the 4th day, they found the roadblock, a wall of melted cars stretched across the faded highway, twisted together by fire and heat until they looked like a single iron sculpture. From behind it, a voice called out, "Drop your packs and step forward slow." Soldiers, real ones. Their uniforms were scorched and patched with whatever fabric they could find, but the sigil still remained. NORCOM, North American Combined Command, one of the last functioning remnants of national order. Franklin stepped forward with both hands up. Tara followed, chin lifted, heart hammering. The soldiers circled them, checking for weapons, radiation burns, signs of sickness. The leader, a woman with gray hair tied back tight, studied them with a sharpness born of too many close calls. "You're the group talking about that recording," she said. Not a question. "We heard something," Franklin replied. "A broadcast. From an old bunker." "The Thunder Choir," Tara added. "It isn't just music. It's a warning." The woman stared at them for a long, calculating moment. Then she sighed. "And you're not the first to come through here speaking about it." She led them behind the wreck wall to a makeshift military camp. Tents, cracked solar towers, sandbags filled with glass dust instead of sand. The soldiers looked exhausted but disciplined. They still believed in something, which made them rare. Inside the central tent, the commander laid a metal case on the table. She opened it. A recorder sat inside. Old, military-grade, dented, but functional. "We captured this signal 2 weeks ago," she said. "It plays every night, exactly at the same hour. Same voice. Same thunder in the background." Tara's breath caught. "Can we hear it?" The commander nodded and pressed play. Static filled the tent, soft at first, then rising like wind against a steel wall. And then the voice came. "A nation can burn without dying, but a nation without conscience dies long before the fires start. If you can hear this, stop them. Stop the retaliation." The sound of distant thunder rolled through the speakers, long and low, as if striking stone. Franklin pressed a hand to his chest. "It's the same message. It's real. Whoever made this, they knew." The commander shut off the recorder. 3 days ago, we intercepted something else. A coded transmission from what's left of the Western Command. They're preparing to launch a strike of their own. They lost half the country. They want the world to feel the same." Tara felt the air leave her lungs. So that was it. The retaliation. The final blow. The last push that would silence what little remained of civilization. "So where's this broadcast coming from?" she asked. "We traced the source to an old military facility near the Rockies," the commander said. "Project Thunderer's main site. Deep underground." Franklin nodded slowly. "Then that's where we go." The commander crossed her arms. "You don't understand. That facility is locked down by systems older than any of us. Automated defenses, sealed blast doors, radiation zones. Even my soldiers barely survived the initial recon attempt." Tara stepped forward, voice steady. "We don't have another choice." The commander held Tara's gaze, long, intense, searching for something she wasn't sure existed anymore. Finally, she exhaled. "Then you'll need help." She opened another case. Inside, maps, access codes, a half-functional Geiger scanner, and a sleek handheld device with a blinking red light. "What's that?" Franklin asked. "A pulse beacon," the commander said. "If you make it to the core of Thunderer, that device can shut down any retaliatory launch sequence linked to the old systems. But it works once, and only once." Franklin lifted it carefully, as if it were a newborn. "We'll make it count." The commander's voice softened. "Good. Because if you fail, no one will be left to try again." As Tara looked at the soldiers preparing gear for them, she felt something she hadn't felt since before the sky turned to metal. Responsibility. The broadcast wasn't a prophecy, it was a plea, and someone had to answer. The mountains rose like broken teeth against a silver sky as Tara, Franklin, and two Norcom escorts pushed toward the old Thunderer facility. Wind funneled through the jagged valleys, carrying the metallic scent of scorched earth. Every step felt like moving deeper into a grave that had been waiting for them. The entrance to the facility was hidden beneath a collapsed communications tower. From a distance, it looked like nothing but twisted steel and rock, but the commander's maps had been precise. Beneath the rubble, half buried under ash, they found a blast door, titanium, cracked but still intact. Franklin brushed snow dust off the keypad. The codes she gave us better work. Tara pressed them in. Beep. Beep. A harsh buzz, then silence. Then the door groaned, internal gears grinding like a creature waking after a long sleep. It slid open just enough for one person at a time to squeeze through. Inside, darkness. They clicked on their lamps. The hallway stretched ahead, lined with peeling hazard stripes and rusted pipes. Sections of the ceiling had collapsed. The air tasted like old power, dry metal, stale electricity, and something colder underneath. Franklin murmured, "This place wasn't built to be found again." "No," Tara said quietly. "It was built to be remembered." They moved forward. At several points, automated turrets powered up, old, weak, sparking. Franklin and the soldiers managed to disable them with careful shots and quick rewiring. A collapsing catwalk nearly took Tara into a pit of shattered machinery, but Franklin caught her arm, pulling her to safety just before the metal gave way. Finally, after hours of navigating corridors and broken defenses, they reached a massive reinforced door. Core access. It was locked behind a biometric panel, unusable after decades. But the wall next to it had cracked, revealing cables thick as tree roots. Franklin crouched. "If I reroute the power..." A low hum vibrated beneath their feet. Lights flickered on, not bright, but alive. The door began to open on its own. Tara's breath caught. It knew we were here. Beyond the door lay a circular chamber glowing with emergency lights. Cables hung like vines. Screens flickered with ghostly blue text. At the center stood a single massive pillar of steel and glass, the Thunderer core. And from hidden speakers came the faint crackle of static. Then, the voice they knew. "A nation can burn without dying." Tara stepped forward. "Franklin, that's not a recording." He stared at the core. "It's live." The voice continued. "If you can hear this, we made our peace long before the world did. The retaliatory systems are active but unstable. We sealed ourselves here, knowing someone might come. Someone who would choose conscience over vengeance." Tara's pulse hammered. "Someone," she whispered, "like us." A final message played, heavy with fading strength. "To whoever finds this, stop the cycle. Do what we could not." Silence returned. Franklin removed the pulse beacon from his pack. Its red light blinked steadily, waiting. But as he approached the console, a screen above it flickered to life. Retaliatory strike status. 89% sequenced launch imminent if core destabilizes Tara's stomach knotted. If we shut the system down wrong, it'll trigger the launch. Franklin swallowed hard. "So we do it right." He handed Tara the beacon. "You're steadier than me." She took it with trembling hands. "What if I'm not?" Franklin managed a tired smile. "You are. Because you're afraid. And doing this anyway." Tara stepped to the console. Wires hummed beneath the surface like a mechanical heartbeat. She placed the beacon onto the activation port. A soft tone chimed. "Pulse beacon recognized." "Confirm full system neutralization?" Tara hovered her finger over the final prompt. One mistake. One tremor. One wrong impulse. And America's last remaining cities would vanish in white fire. She thought of the broadcast, the voice asking only that the future choose differently than the past. The storm at the safe house, reminding them what destruction already felt like. She pressed her finger down. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then, the core lights dimmed. The ground trembled. Static roared through the chamber, and a single thunderclap, like the sky being torn open, filled the facility. The lights went dark. On every screen, retaliatory systems, disarmed all strike capabilities, null. Tara exhaled the breath she'd been holding since the world ended. Franklin laughed shakily. You did it! We actually... The facility shook again, harder. The ceiling groaned. Time to go, one of the soldiers shouted. They ran. Alarms wailed. The blast door behind them sealed as the chamber collapsed. They sprinted through the failing corridors, dodged falling cable bundles, and threw themselves through the entrance, just as the tunnel behind them caved in with a thunderous roar. They lay in the snow outside, coughing dust, staring at the pale sky. Franklin turned his head toward Tara. So, what now? Tara watched the horizon. The clouds seemed a little thinner, the air a little less heavy. Now, she said softly, we rebuild, with conscience first. And somewhere far beneath them, deep in the buried remains of Project Thunderer, a final burst of static crackled. Not a warning, not a plea, but something that sounded almost like gratitude.